Summary of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. In the middle of the Great Depression, Scout Finch, who is 6 years old, lives in the small town of Maycomb, Alabama, with her elder brother, Jem, and her father, Atticus. After working long hours as a lawyer, Atticus gets enough money to keep his family from being poor. Calpurnia, the family's black cook, helps him take care of the kids. Scout, on the other hand, thinks that Calpurnia is cruel and that she favors Jem over her. Scout and Jem spend a lot of time making up stories and playing them out. A boy named Dill comes to stay with his aunt, Miss Rachel, who lives next door to the Finches, one summer. The kids become friends, and Dill's wild imagination makes them crazy about a house nearby called Radley Place very quickly. The house is owned by a man named Nathan Radley, but the children are more interested in and scared of Arthur Radley, their shy brother, who they call Boo. They say that Arthur is locked up in the house and once used scissors to stab their father, Mr. Radley. Kids in the area think he's too big, drools a lot, and eats cats and mice in the area. A dare makes Jem run up to the Radley house and touch it. Scout is sure she sees someone watching them from behind a curtain inside. Dill goes back to Mississippi when summer is over. Scout starts school, which she is both excited and scared about. Miss Caroline, her teacher, tells her she can't write in script on the first day because she already knows how to read. When she gets home from school upset, Atticus tells her to imagine how Miss Caroline must have felt. Just like Scout didn't know how to deal with her strange teacher, Miss Caroline didn't know how to handle the weird behavior of the kids in Maycomb. He tells her to put herself in the shoes of others to see things from their point of view. When Scout and Jem find riches stuffed into a tree hole next to the Radley's fence, it's the best part of the school year. Scout and Jem don't pay attention to the story that everything on the Radley property is poison when they find a bunch of gum. It's summer and Dill is back. He, Scout, and Jem get braver and one night sneak onto the Radley property to look out the window. But Nathan Radley sees them and thinks they are thieves. As they run away, the Radley fence catches Jem's pants. Leaving them behind, he goes to Nathan Radley's gate with the rest of the neighborhood to hide their tracks. They tell him that Dill won Jem's pants in a game of strip poker, which makes the adults very angry and shocked. Later that night, when Jem goes back to Radley's fence to get the pants, he finds them fixed up and folded. Scout and Jem keep finding gifts in the knothole until Nathan Radley seals it off because he thinks the tree is dying. Atticus says that the tree doesn't look sick, which makes Jem feel even worse. After a few months, Miss Maudie Atkinson's house in Finch's neighborhood catches fire in the middle of winter. While Scout and Finch watch it burn, someone puts a blanket around Scout's shoulders. It's clear to Jem that Boo did it. Atticus tries not to laugh, but Scout is scared. In that year, the court asks Atticus to defend Tom Robinson, a black man who is accused of raping Mayella Ewell, who is the daughter of Bob Ewell, a poor white man who is known for being mean. There are more racial conflicts in Maycomb. People at school, in the neighborhood, in the town, and even some family members hurt Scout and Jem. Atticus begs Scout not to hit people when they insult her about it, which is something Scout has a hard time with at Christmas. Frances, an older, less interesting family member, tricks Scout into fighting him while they are at Finch's Landing. This gets her in trouble with her favorite Uncle Jack. Later, when she gets home, Scout tells Uncle Jack what he did wrong. He never asked her side of the story and punished her based on Frances's false claim. She begs him to keep this whole thing from Atticus. Scout and Jem get air guns for Christmas, which is a good thing, but Atticus won't show them how to shoot. He only tells them that killing a sparrow is wrong. In the late winter, Scout and Jem get their new air guns and go hunting for rabbits. While they are out, they notice that Tim Johnson, a well-known dog in Maycomb, is acting strangely. When Calpurnia sees that the dog has rabies, she tells the neighbors and calls Heck Tate, the sheriff. As a surprise to the kids, Mr. Tate doesn't shoot the dog himself, he makes Atticus do it. They didn't know Atticus could shoot a gun, but Miss Maudie says he used to be the best shot in the county. In the spring, Scout and Jem start going further down the road to meet Atticus after work. This means that they pass Mrs. Dubos's house, who is a mean person. For a while, Jem doesn't pay attention to her abuse, but one day she says mean things about him because Atticus defended Tom Robinson. Jem gets back at him by taking off the tops of the camellia bushes she loves. To make up for it, Mrs. Dubose wants Jem to read to her every day after school for a month. Atticus tells him he has to do it. It doesn't matter what, Mrs. Dubose is always mean and scary for both Jem and Scout because she has fits. Atticus makes Jem read for another week, and Mrs. Dubose dies a month after he's done. Atticus says that Mrs. Dubose was hooked on morphine and used Jem's daily reading to help her kick the habit before she died. She wanted to be free when she died. Atticus says that he made Jem read because he wanted Jem to understand that being brave doesn't mean having a gun to your head. It means doing what you know is right even if you know you'll fail. Calpurnia takes the kids to her black church one Sunday while Atticus isn't there, and most of the people there are happy to see them. Scout is shocked to learn that Calpurnia has two different selves. She talks one way at home with the Finch family and another way with her black friends. Aunt Alexandra, Atticus's sister, will stay with them for a while. In Maycomb, this could mean any amount of time, to be a feminine influence on Scout when they get back home. When Aunt Alexandra tells Scout she can't go to Calpurnia's house, Scout is very upset and doesn't trust her. On a general level, Aunt Alexandra is more traditional in her social ideas than Atticus. The way she treats Calpurnia makes her seem more like a helper than a family member. She also tries to teach the kids that the Finches are a fine family because they've lived on the same land for generations. Because of this, Jem says, the Yule family is also made up of fine folks. Aunt Alexandra tells Scout he can't go see Calpurnia that day, and Scout finds Dill hiding under her bed. Dill has run away from his mother and her new husband. They broke their code when Jem told Atticus, but Dill's mother and Miss Rachel let her stay in Maycomb. That night, Dill says he was lonely and thinks Boo Radley must be too. But Boo hasn't run away because he might not have anywhere else to go. Scout, Jem, and Dill see that things are getting worse in Maycomb over the weekend before Tom Robinson's trial. Scout has seen groups of guys gather on the Finch's yard, but that only happens when someone dies or when people want to talk about politics. A large group of people gather around the jail where Tom is being held the day before his hearing. Scout, Jem, and Dill sneak out of the house to find Atticus and meet him at the courthouse, where he is waiting for a mob to attack Tom. Scout has no idea what's going on and feels scared and awkward when she finds herself with a group of guys she doesn't know. This feeling gets worse when she sees that Atticus is scared. In the crowd, she sees a guy named Mr. Cunningham and asks him about his son Walter, who is in the same class as Scout. Shamed, the man sends the crowd away. The next morning, this event is told as a crazy brave story, which makes Dill happy and Aunt Alexandra mad. At the trial, Atticus gives a strong defense of Tom and shows that both Mayella and Mr. Yule are lying. This is because Tom can't use his left arm, so he couldn't have choked and beaten a woman, and Mayella's injuries show that the person who beat her was left-handed. In fact, Atticus thinks that Mr. Yule, who is left-handed, hit Mayella himself when he saw her touching Tom. Tom knew that he had to run, even though it made him look bad. While the black people are forced to sit on the balcony, Scout, Jem, and Dill sneak into the trial and watch from there. Dill has to leave while Mr. Gilmer, the prosecutor's lawyer, talks to Tom. He's very angry that Mr. Gilmer talked to Tom in a racist way. When they go outside, they meet Mr. Raymond, a white guy who wants to live with black people. He says that Dill can only feel this way because he is a kid and that people learn to ignore their natural sense of what is right and wrong. Even though Jem is sure that Atticus will win, the all-white panel finds Tom guilty of rape. The decision really hurts Jem, and when Tom tries to escape from jail and is shot and killed, it makes him even less sure of justice. Robinson was found guilty, but Yule is still mad that Atticus made him look stupid in court. He talks badly about Helen Robinson, breaks Tom's window, and even tries to get into Judge Taylor's house. Atticus isn't worried though, because he thinks that Mr. Yule got everything off his chest when he spat in his face a week after the trial. But one night, Mr. Yule attacks Jem and Scout as they walk home alone from a Halloween show. Scout can only barely make out what's going on, but she hears Jem's arm break before someone comes to help. Mr. Yule is killed by being stabbed during the fight. The person who saved Jem and Scout takes Jem home. When Scout gets there, she learns that the person is Boo Radley. Boo's role in Mr. Yule's death is kept secret by Mr. Tate, which Scout understands because she tells Atticus that punishing him would be like killing a sparrow. Scout takes Boo to kiss awake Jem goodbye and then walks Boo home. Girl Scout stands on the Radley porch and thinks about the last few summers. She sees the world through Boo's eyes. She learns that Boo really lived next door and cared about his children, Scout, Jem, and Dill. When Scout gets home, she falls asleep while Atticus reads to her next to Jem's bed.
About the author. Nellie Harper Lee was born in Monroeville, Alabama, on April 28, 1926. She got her law degree from the University of Alabama in 1949 and lived in Oxford, England, for a year. In 1950, she went to New York to focus on her writing. To Kill a Mockingbird, which she released in 1960, was an instant and huge hit. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1961 and was named Best Novel of the Century by Library Journal readers in 1999. Lee pulled away from public life after 1960 and went back to her hometown of Monroeville, Alabama. Besides a few pieces, she didn't put out any other work until 2015. By that time, her editor had already put out Go Set a Watchman, which Lee had written before Mockingbird. When it came out, it caused a lot of debate because some people thought Lee's publisher took advantage of her old age to get the book published. However, the state of Alabama looked into this and found no proof of this. Lee died in 2016 at the age of 89.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.